So once again, when we're talking about aggregate situations, right? When we're talking about aggregate situations, which we are when we're talking about the aggregate supply, we're no longer just going to have the price of one good up here. We're going to have price level of the whole economy, right? As measured by either the CPI, right, the Consumer Price Index, or the GDP deflator. So CPI uses a basket of goods, GDP deflator uses all of the goods that are consumed in any given year. On the x-axis, we're going to have our real GDP. We're not going to do our nominal GDP because why? Our nominal GDP has the fluctuations in price levels with it. And typically our price level changes 2% every year. We don't really want a graph that's talking about the changes in price level on both the y and the x-axis. So we strip the price out of the real GDP, the x-axis, and just look at output sans prices. So when we're talking aggregate supply, just like with regular supply, it's going to be upward sloping. However, it's not going to be this simple straight thing anymore. Now we're going to have something that looks like a quarter circle, not semicircle, a quarter circle. So it's going to be something like this and like this. So this is going to be our aggregate supply curve. And right now, if you want, you can just start calling this the short run aggregate supply curve, because we're going to change the name to that soon. So this is the short run aggregate supply curve. And when we're talking about aggregate supply, it slopes up because as the price level increases, with our input prices fixed, firms have an incentive to produce more and more and more. Now, at a certain point, they run into, decreasing returns, right? At a certain point, it becomes right here, the price level increases by just a little bit, and we go from here all the way over to here. If we increase that same little bit up here, it's going to go from here to here, right? So the gains that you get are much smaller when you're up higher in the range. And so it's just reflecting the diminishing returns that you have because of the limited nature of your resources and your constraints in that short run. So alongside the short run aggregate supply, we have something called a long run aggregate supply curve, which is also known as the potential GDP curve. And that is always going to be a straight line. How many names can we give it? I feel like I'm doing an infographic. So it's our potential GDP, which we abbreviate as YP. It's also known as our full employment GDP, and we're going to refer to it in subsequent chapters as our long-run aggregate supply curve. So our long-run aggregate supply curve, it represents if everybody was employed and all of our resources were used in their most productive use, what could we produce? And so it doesn't change with the price level because it's constrained by the amount of land, capital, technology, and labor that we have.